Hey guys, this is going to be a very special and important video because it's to celebrate the 2nd year anniversary of my server, or the Chill Castle. And as such, I will explain why I fell in love with Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Some of you might be questioning, wait, how does that make any sense? Well, fear not, because if you stick around till the end, then everything will make sense. And for those that are wondering, this video will only contain spoilers, one part of the video, which is already timestamped in the description below. And also you'll be prompted okay, this next session I'm going to talk about spoilers, so if you want to not be spoiled, skip to, blank timestamp. Without any further ado, let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is by saying some context or background info, as that is important for you to understand my quote-unquote journey with Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So before I played Xenoblade 2, I won't lie, I was sort of sad/depressed, as it had only been a few months since I got betrayed by some former friends, and it really hit me hard. Nevertheless, this game it helped me move on from that, and I'll explain more in depth as to how and why exactly it did this. One more important thing to know is that this was my first JRPG, as before I only mostly played Mario Kart, and from my betrayal I even stopped playing that, so for a while I didn't really game much at all. And yeah, this game helped me get back into gaming, while also opening a brand new genre which I deeply love now. So now let's talk about the gameplay, and I'm gonna just say it right away, I think the gameplay is really fun. When I first played this game, I genuinely loved every single bit of it, I'm not even joking. Even the early boring parts of the gameplay, I was enjoying myself. Now again, some of that was due to this being my first JRPG, so I didn't really know what to expect. But I will admit that nowadays I can't get myself to enjoy the early game combat, but that's because, quite honestly, I've played this game 8 times already, so you could say I'm just a teeny tiny bit burned out, And also, the later half of the combat is genuinely much better and very fun to play. Speaking of, fun gameplay, I gotta say, this game, it just keeps getting better and better gameplay-wise. So for example, early on, I'd say it's a little boring, but then later on, you get chain attacks, and then it becomes a lot more interesting after you get Mithra as well, and then you reach post game. Post game, that's when this gameplay it just shines like a bright star, because after you put 400 hours into grinding and having OP set up every blade at S+ rank, and just cheesing through challenge mode, that is very satisfying in my opinion. However, I'm sure not everyone's gonna want to probably grind 400 hours for that, but I'm just saying that I enjoy doing that, so I did it. Of course, you might not enjoy doing that, so you probably won't do that, but hey man, everyone's different. Now, my favorite part about the combat has got to be the chain attacks, because essentially what I would try to do is I would try to build as many orbs as I can by doing a blade combo level 3s, and then start the chain attack and just burst them. I know this is not really the meta, or it was at launch, but nowadays it's not the meta whatsoever, but hey, I don't care. That's fun doing that, so so I do it for fun. Additionally, this game has one feature that is very underrated in my opinion, and that is custom difficulty mode, where it allows you to fine-tune difficulty parameters such as enemy health, how often they attack, how often you can heal, and etc. And unless you played a game that actually had this feature, you won't know how nice this is, because essentially you can grind a lot easier. For example, if you have to kill 10 enemies, and you can just turn the health all the way low and then just kill them, kill those 10 much faster. But the coolest part about this is that this allowed me to do a bunch of challenge runs. For example, one run I did was with only using Cosmos, and essentially all the enemy health, the enemy attack speed, and the enemy attack itself is to the max. And I tried to only use Cosmos and beat the game, which I didn't succeed, but hey, that was an attempt I did. Now, I don't want to sound like this game only has positives regarding the gameplay. There are some negatives, which I will mention them now. So some of the negatives I'll talk about today are the bat tutorials, the field skills, and the manual affinity chart unlocks. So for the tutorials, they indeed suck, and there's no defense for them. The only workaround is to just either ask people around or look at a guide online, which I personally did not mind. I mean, because I would do that anyways for games that I play that I want to get better at, so it's not the end of the world. However, I know this doesn't bode well with many people, so I know why that they may not like that at all. Next up are the field skills, and to be honest with you, while I can see why these might seem like really bad for some people, but to be honest, they're not that bad, guys. I mean, if you're playing just a story and you're doing, you know, some side content and merch missions in the background, you will not have trouble with these. Like, the worst thing you have to do is just swap them to like pass, I guess, a gate point or etc. Now, when they really get annoying is for like post-game or side content. That's when they're really, really bad. But hey, not everyone's gonna do 100% of the game, so that's not a major thing, you know. Plus, you know, completionists know that games may have that one feature which is really annoying or really hard, which makes them wanna like rage. So hey, most people are gonna be playing the story, so for most people this should not really be a major issue whatsoever. And lastly, we have the manual affinity chart unlocks. Now, what I mean by that is this game's a skill tree for blades and drivers actually is called the affinity chart. And essentially, to unlock one, you have to do the requirements. And the thing is, if you do meet the requirements, you'll get like a notification that, okay, this so-and-so affinity, you know, has been unlocked. However, you won't actually have it unlocked until you go to the affinity chart manually, which is really, really bad, because like you could go hours on hours thinking you have, okay, I'm unlocking all this, but no, you don't, because you haven't gone to the affinity chart yourself and, you know, unlocked it. Like, you might think it's unlocked, but it's not unlocked. And the worst part is, it works in a way where you have to unlock the previous one to unlock the higher level one. So you might try to satisfy the requirements for the higher level one, not knowing that the previous one has not even been unlocked yet. So as you can see, this is really a bad thing. And this is the only bad thing which I will say is genuinely really awful, because this should have been fixed in an update, and it still has not been fixed. Even Torna, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, like even Torna has this, where essentially you have to manually go to unlock the field skill, or sorry, not field skill, the affinity chart. So I have a feeling it might be something more like lower level or deep down into the game, which is why they couldn't easily fix it with an update. That's just a guess. That's not an excuse. I'm just giving a possible explanation as to why it is. I think this is a really bad thing as well. At this point, some of you might say, hey Falto, you forgot to mention the biggest negative, the gacha system, right? So bad, right? Well, I mean, if I'm being honest with you, I'm kind of indifferent to the gacha in this game. Like, it's just there, and I just, you know, like, I don't really care. Like, I don't like it, nor do I hate it. Like, it's just there, if that makes sense. So, yeah. And honestly, if you compare this gacha to, like, an actual mobile gacha game, this is way, way better. So, let's just leave it at that. So, these were some of the negatives of the gameplay. Now let's move on to the story part of this video. And I gotta say right away, this has got to be the most emotional roller coaster of a story I had ever experienced in my life, and it still is to this day. At some point I thought, okay, this is probably due to this being my first JRPG, and I'm sure if I play more, then like that opinion will change, right? But nope, I was wrong. In fact, the only game that actually came close was Xenoblade 1. I find that story to be very good and very enjoyable as well. I just find 2 to be a little more, but hey, I love them both. A major factor that made me enjoy this game's story was the many twists and turns that it throws at you. After the many JRPGs I've played, the only one which actually beats this game when it comes to twists and turns has got to be Xenoblade 1. I do think that game has much bigger and wilder twists. However, this game's twists and turns are still very, very good as well. I'd say it's like second best out of any game I played so far. Another major factor which added to the enjoyment was what I dubbed the quote-unquote hype scenes from my previous video. Now, while Xenoblade 3 lacked these, this game certainly has a lot of them, and they're very emotional heavy, which actually adds to the hype part for this game. And lastly, the music in this game It's just amazing. It's just brilliant. It's out of this world. It's spectacular. Like, no matter how many words I describe to use it, like, it's too, like, that's too low. Like it's just that good, essentially. And yeah, and also, like, the music, I don't know if every game does this, but like, it's also synced up to like the scenes. So for example, if in a scene like something happens, then like the sound or the background OST, it might drop a beat or something, just so that it's synced up, and that honestly makes the scenes a lot more enjoyable as well, in my opinion. Now, some might say, oh well, the first half of the game is ass because it's so boring. And my honest response to that is, no, I don't see how the first half of the game is boring. Like, sure, the first half has some lows, such as Chapter 2 and Chapter 4, however, overall, the game has lots of highs, and those highs, they definitely make up for any lows which Chapter 2 and Chapter 4 might bring upon. Especially in the second half of the game, because, like, honestly speaking, the second half, it's like it's like an uphill of greatness, in my opinion, until the very last frame. I know some may not agree with that, which we'll get into more in the next section. However, in my opinion, I say that it keeps getting better and better. But nevertheless, whether you think the first half is boring or not, I definitely would say that this game is really, really amazing just for its second half, and any potential boredness you might have in the first half, I think it's easily like well worth and paid off. Alright, now I'm going to be talking about spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled, you can skip to the time shown below, and yeah, I'll give you a few seconds to do that. Alright, your spoiler warning has been warned, and now there's spoilers from now onwards until the next section of this video. Alright, I'm gonna just say it. I think this ending was amazing. It was beautiful. Some may not agree, however, I really loved it. In fact, Chapter 10 as a whole was really amazing right from the start, and then it ends with a banger, in my opinion. And I know I have the minority opinion, or from what it seems like I have the minority opinion, because, you know, after talking around with many people, both in my community and outside of my community, Xenoblade ending was good until Pyramithra came back, and then it's just cringe, it's just a cheap out, it's just a fake out, you know, like, no, fuck this game, this game's trash, because they came back. If they didn't come back, then I would have liked this game. That's what they say. Which, I mean, you know, if you think that way, okay, that's a valid opinion, because, to be honest, you could say that it is a fake out, because that is true, because they showed that they almost died, and they didn't die, so if you don't like that type of stuff, then it's unfortunate, and you won't like the ending of this game whatsoever, and it might actually ruin the entire game for you. Now, the good thing is, for me, I don't feel that way whatsoever. In fact, I'm the complete opposite. Now, I genuinely like when, like, I guess, both villains and heroes, they come back to life. Of course, not just for the sake of it. Obviously, you know, if there's some lore behind it, yeah, I think it's pretty cool. And you might be asking, well, is there any lore behind them coming back, Pyramithra? And the answer is yes, there is lore. I won't spend too much time on this, but I'll just quickly summarize it. Essentially, for a blade to die in Xenoblade 2, their core crystal, or core itself, has to be broken. However, at the ending, Pyramithra or Numa, they gave their core to Rex. And then their body did get destroyed. However, Rex had their core come completely intact and like not broken whatsoever. Therefore, they never died because they are a blade. So if their core is fine, then the blade itself is fine. And just a side note, I usually play games to be happy, so if there is an MC death ending, or an important character death ending, I should say, yeah, that would really leave me sad. And it's possible that I might have not enjoyed this game to the extent I did if they stayed dead. And more on that in the next section of this video, which, speaking of, let's get right into that now. So, I might have loved this game's gameplay and story a lot. However, I have to also say that the aftermath, or the impact this game left me, is also a major reason why this game stayed so high up for me. For example, because of Xenoblade 2, I got into other great series as well, such as Final Fantasy, Nier, Persona, and you name it. So if I didn't like Xenoblade 2's ending that much, it's possible that I probably or maybe would have not touched those, you know, new series, and that would be really saddening, because I would have not got to experience such great games. Now going all the way back around to how all of this connects to my server's 2nd year anniversary. So you see, because of Xenoblade 2, it led me to have and create my own community, which I'm very thankful and grateful for. And by community, I mean you guys in my Discord server. And this is true because if it wasn't for this game's ending, it's very possible you guys might have never met me, or I might have never tried to grow my server like the way I did. Which would be really unfortunate because then it means I would have never get to meet such amazing and great people like you guys. So near the beginning I mentioned how this game, it got me out of my sad phase or my depression-ish phase, you could say. Well, essentially, because like of the positive impact this game left on me, like essentially I was no longer sad anymore. Like I was just genuinely happy because I was meeting new people and I was playing, you know, new and different games that I never even, you know, thought of playing before. So that's how essentially it made me not sad anymore. Alright, now we're going on to the slightly sad part. So as some of you may know, lately I've not been mentally well or healthy in my opinion. Like I just don't feel mentally stable right now. I feel like I just want to trash talk about myself all day long. And some of them, like, you know, or like I'll get too angry too easily, or I'll get too emotional too easily. And it's like, you know, these things, they didn't happen before. And they're happening now. I don't know what's causing them. I'm still trying to figure out. I think there's a few different reasons, but I don't know what the main reason is, to be honest. But nevertheless, that means, I won't lie, I have thought about straight up leaving altogether. Whether it be temporary or, you know, permanently, but I have thought of it on many occasions. But I do want to reassure you, as of right now, it's a no. I'm not leaving, which means I'm not going from the journey to the answer just yet, and that's not happening now. But if I ever do take a break, you'll know why I did that. It's so I can heal myself. And on that, the final thing I'll say is thank you Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but most importantly, thank you the Chill Castle for being by my side.